Your emotions are powerful, but your mind was designed to be stronger. Train it, and you'll master life. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Leader's Realm podcast, where we dive each week deep into the principles and practices that drive the activation of a beast mode mindset. I'm your host, Tony Cammarata, serial entrepreneur, certified Maxwell team member, business coach, personal mindset coach, sales trainer, and speaker. Today, I want to dive into a critical aspect of personal development. This is something that I myself struggle with. Many of my clients in the past have struggled with. And it's training your mind to be stronger than your emotions. The topic strikes at the heart of leadership, personal growth, and life mastery. Whether you're striving for success in your career, aiming to build stronger relationships, or just simply want to navigate life's challenges with more clarity, and learning to regulate and manage your emotions is absolutely fundamental. What comes to mind is that, I've been off the air for a couple of weeks now. We've had back-to-back hurricanes down here. And, this very topic has been hitting me kind of hard because I'm just watching the way people are reacting to the good that people are doing, to the bad that people are doing. It's all reactionary. And I'm going to really get into a little bit more about the reactions and how to control them and how to strengthen our mind to overcome that emotion. So I want to spend some time exploring the differences between mind and emotion, why emotional mastery is the key to success, give you some practical strategies to train your mind, and steps that you can implement immediately, tonight, tomorrow. We'll draw on a blend of psychology, neuroscience, ancient wisdom, real-life examples. So sit back, guys, grab that coffee. Let's really enjoy this journey today, and let's learn how to master this. So the first step in training your mind to be stronger than your emotions is to really get down and dirty and understand the differences between the two. So many times we use the terms mind and emotion completely interchangeably, but what I've learned is that they operate very differently. So what is the mind, you ask? Your mind encompasses your conscious thoughts, your reasoning abilities, intellect, capacity to make decisions. It's where logic, problem solving, analytical thinking really reside. The mind can consider long-term consequences, evaluates multiple outcomes, and helps you to make strategic decisions. Emotions, on the other hand, they're the automatic responses that are generated by your brain. They're deeply tied to the survival instincts, and they can drive us to act really quickly, sometimes completely irrationally, and based on what feels good or bad in that moment. So emotions like fear, anger, happiness, and sadness are all hardwired into our brain as survival mechanisms. But they don't always lead us to the best outcomes, especially in today's world. So the illustration that came to mind as I was researching and preparing this content, it's an illustration that I kind of drew from one of my favorite movies, The Godfather. If you look at the difference in the way the two brothers, Michael and Sonny, handle situations, you'll see exactly the contrast I'm talking about. Michael, on one hand, is the mind. And Sonny, well, he was all emotion. If you've seen it, you'll get where I'm coming from. So Michael, very analytical in all that he did, always thinking and always logical. Sonny, on the other hand, reactive, angry, quick to strike. Another real life example for me, I just recently took a test. As I've mentioned in the past, I study martial arts, and there were some things happening in there that just weren't sitting right with me. Some communication issues back and forth, and I struggled. I struggled with the fact that because my emotions were getting me so frustrated. And the easy answer was don't get frustrated. You know the material. You're good. Just relax, handle it. And it was a learning moment. It was a learning moment for me to just sit back, breathe, and strengthen the mind in that moment. Same holds true with some of these things that I've been reading on social media. The anger towards people that have lost things, and through these storms that were just horrible, horrible experiences. And yet you've got people that have lost everything. They've got no power, no water, and yet you talk to them and they're making the absolute best of it. I personally know some people that are in that situation, and they say, yeah, we've set up a campsite now where our house was, and we're inviting neighbors and feeding neighbors, and we're taking water from the creek and filtering it so that we have water. And, you just look at the different contrasts there, and you sit back and you say, wait a minute, that person's mind is much stronger than their emotion. And that's where we're trying to get to. So the challenge really arises when your emotions clash with the logical mind. So imagine you're about to give a speech. Your anxiety starts to get the best of you. Your mind knows that you're prepared, but your emotions are telling you to run or freeze. The internal conflict is where the struggle is. Our emotions are incredibly powerful and can overwhelm our rational thinking, leading to poor decision making, stress, and sometimes even paralysis. So you may be asking, so why is mastering emotions so critical? Well, let's take a look at the consequence of living in a reactive, emotional-driven state. So emotional reactions lead to poor decisions. When emotions like anger, fear, or frustration dominate your mind, you make decisions that you ultimately later regret. You might lash out at someone during an argument or procrastinate on important tasks, all because you're overwhelmed by anxiety. These impulsive reactions undermine our long-term goals. Emotional instability creates inconsistent behavior. Emotions that can be fleeting, which means that you're living purely in an emotional state that can cause your behavior to fluctuate wildly. One day you might feel highly motivated. The next, you're all bummed out, lethargic, just don't feel like doing anything. The inconsistency can confuse others and disrupt our ability to stick to goals and plans. And it's more common than you may think, guys. Then there's emotional overwhelm. It impacts relationships. When emotions drive your actions, relationships suffer. Uncontrolled emotional outbursts, mood swings, and negative emotional patterns like jealousy, insecurity, they can destroy trust and cause friction. On the flip side, learning to manage those emotions fosters a healthy communication and deeper connections. There's emotional drain. Emotional drain lowers our productivity. Letting our emotions like stress, frustration, and overwhelm dictate our lives leads to ultimate burnout, which decreases productivity. Without the ability to separate our emotions from our actions, we lose the mental clarity that we need to focus on the important task at hand. And our minds end up getting cluttered with distractions, because we're running from the task that we need to be focused on. Now, emotional strength is key to leadership. As a leader, the ability to stay composed, act with integrity, regardless of the emotional pressures around you, sets the tone for others. A strong mind gives us the clarity to make decisions that align with our values and long-term goals, instead of succumbing to the short-term emotional impulses. So let's just take a minute to absorb that and then move right into the science behind emotional and mental training. To train our minds to be stronger than our emotions, it's essential to understand how our brains operate. Neuroscience offers some fascinating insights into how emotions and thoughts interact and how we can leverage this to strengthen our mental fortitude. So there's two parts of the brain involved that I've learned. the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex, or PFC, is the rational, logical part of the brain. It's responsible for our decision-making, our planning, regulating behavior. The amygdala is the emotional center, responsible for generating that quick emotional response like fear, excitement, anger. When you experience a strong emotion, the amygdala can hijack your brain. Well, that's that word. That's tongue ties me every time. So the amygdala can hijack our brains, overwhelming the prefrontal cortex and driving us to react impulsively. The good news, though, guys, is that the brain is totally malleable, a quality known as neuroplasticity. We can train our brains to reduce emotional overreactions and strengthen the rational mind's control over the action. This training involves creating new neural pathways through consistent practice and discipline. But then we've got hormonal involvement. So emotions are also influenced by chemicals like cortisol, which is the stress hormone, dopamine, the reward hormone, and serotonin, the mood regulator. When emotions run high, cortisol levels spike. They make you feel stressed, anxious. By practicing techniques that can calm our bodies and mind, we can lower the cortisol levels and promote a more balanced and emotional state. So let's talk about some practical strategies that we can use to train our minds. So now that we've covered the emotional mastery that it matters and the science behind it, let's dive into some strategies that we can use to train the mind to be stronger than the emotion. Now, this first one I've covered in many episodes, mindfulness. It's one of the most powerful tools for emotional regulation. By practicing mindfulness, we can train our brains to observe emotions without getting caught up in them. So contrary to what many of us have been told, the goal is not to suppress the emotion. Hold that in. Don't freak out. Just keep it in. Don't let anyone see that you're emotional right now. Mindfulness exercises strengthen the prefrontal cortex, helping it gain more control over emotional responses that are triggered by the amygdala. With consistent practice, you'll start to notice that there's more space between your emotions and your actions. And that's really where I found myself last night during this test. Cognitive reframing. That involves challenging the negative thought patterns and replacing them with a more empowering interpretation. Your mind often reacts to situations based on how you perceive them. So reframing allows us to see things from a much different perspective, and it reduces the emotional overwhelm that comes along with it. So when we're faced with a stressful situation, ask yourself, is my reaction based on facts or assumptions? Identify the negative distortive thoughts. For example, I'll never be able to do this. Replace them with a rational, balanced alternative. I've succeeded before. I can handle this challenge with a little effort. By regularly reframing your thoughts, you can calm your emotional responses and shift your focus to solutions rather than problems. There's emotional labeling. Simply labeling your emotions can significantly reduce the intensity. So when you name an emotion such as, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, you activate the rational part of your brain, which helps soothe the emotional response. When you feel an intense emotion, stop. Pause and identify it. Say it out loud or write it down. What is it that you're feeling? So, for example, I'm feeling frustrated because this project is taking longer than expected. By labeling the emotion, you're signaling to your brain that you are in control, not reverse. Breathing techniques can have an immediate effect on this. Can work by calming the nervous system. So when you slow down your breathing, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps reduce the fight or flight. It's a simple technique. It can be practiced anywhere, anytime you're feeling overwhelmed. Practicing gratitude. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we're lacking or what's going wrong to what we have and what's going well. This shift in perspective lowers negative emotions like anxiety, frustration, and enhances the feelings of contentment and happiness. Each morning or evening, take a few minutes, guys. Write down just not a whole list, but just 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for. Reflect on why you're grateful for each one of those and how it positively impacts your life. Over time, this practice rewires our brain to focus on positivity rather than the emotional triggers. Once we've practiced the foundational techniques, we can take emotional mastery to the next level. And here's some advanced strategies for that. Visualization. Visualization involves imagining yourself handling difficult emotional situations with calmness and control. This mental rehearsal, it primes our brain to react with more confidence and less stress in real life scenarios. Just close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes, visualize a challenging situation. Imagine yourself staying calm and composed as the situation unfolds. Picture how you would speak, move, think in a controlled and mindful manner. Repeating this type of visualization trains our brain to respond with calmness in a high-pressure situation. Self-compassion, guys. Being overly critical of ourselves when emotions get the best of us can make things worse. Self-compassion is the practice of treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed, especially when we fall short of our own expectations, which can be very high. And it helps us to break the cycle of negative self-talk. When you experience a strong negative emotion, just take a minute to pause. Speak to yourself as you would to a close friend or a child. For example, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's a tough situation, but you know what? I can handle it. Remind yourself that everyone experiences difficult emotions. We're not alone. You're not alone. Practice self-forgiveness. Give yourself some grace, guys. Show yourself some grace. If you react emotionally in a way that you later regret, avoid ruminating on it. Acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move on with compassion. Self-compassion encourages resilience and emotional regulation by reducing the harsh self-criticism that often exacerbates the emotional distress. Establishing daily routines that support emotional regulation is key to training our minds to be stronger than our emotions. By embedding habits that reinforce mental clarity and emotional control into our day, we create a foundation for emotional resilience. Start your day with mindfulness, your quiet time, meditation, breathing exercises. Set the tone for calm and focus. Incorporate regular physical exercise. Physical activity helps us to balance our mood and the mood-regulating chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. Schedule breaks throughout the day to just rest your mental state. I mean, we get wrapped up in the day and we get wrapped up in what we're doing and we never take the time. I mean, heck, most people don't even stop to eat anything all day long. They just run. Take the time, guys. Give yourself a chance to hit the reset button on your mental state and avoid the emotional fatigue. Wind down with a reflection or a gratitude practice to reduce emotional clutter before sleep. I have such a hard time with not being able to turn my mind off that, I have to stop. I have to stop and reflect, breathe, and get rid of that emotional clutter of the day. When your day is structured with emotionally grounding activities, you're less likely, guys, to be completely swayed by sudden emotional impulses. Emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Instead, it involves distancing yourself from the immediate emotional reactions you experience. allowing you to respond more thoughtfully and deliberately. It's about taking a step back, evaluating your emotional landscape, and be objective about it. When an emotion arises, rather than immediately reacting, take a deep breath, observe it, ask yourself, is this emotion helping me right now, or is it clouding my judgment? Visualize putting your emotions into a box temporarily. The mental exercise of doing that gives us time to think logically before we revisit the emotion and respond. And always avoid making major decisions while in the heat of emotion. Instead, allow yourself time to cool down, review the situation with a clear mind. Emotional detachment gives us the space that we need to make good choices instead of reactive ones, allowing our mind to take the lead over the emotion. So now that we've looked at and we've explored the different stages for emotional mastery, let's look at how to implement them, just in different areas of life, whether in your career, personal relationships, even just your daily routines. So we'll look at work first. Work can be a breeding ground for emotional challenges, a breeding ground for pressure, deadlines, interpersonal conflicts. High expectations can trigger stress and overwhelm. Use mindfulness techniques, guys, before your meetings, before your presentations, just to calm your nerves and reduce the anxiety. Practice a cognitive reframing when faced with negative feedback or failure. Instead of taking it personally, view it as an opportunity for growth. During conflicts, implement emotional detachment. Take a minute to breathe, respond thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. Leaders who have mastered their emotions foster a culture of calm, trust, and resilience, leading to better team dynamics and much better decision making. In relationships, emotional regulation is essential in personal relationships. Reacting impulsively to emotions like anger, frustration, or jealousy can lead to total misunderstandings and damaged connections. What we should do is when conflict arises, practice controlled breathing. De-escalate your emotional response before you engage in the conversation. And I know that sometimes that's hard because two people in the dance get heated, and one is just looking for a response from someone else, and they just keep on and keep on and keep on until you end up responding. So just take that with caution, guys. Just do the best that you can to just practice your controlled breathing. Take a step back before you engage in the conversation. Use emotional labeling during arguments, saying something like, I feel hurt. That can help us to express our emotions without letting them control our situation. Regularly practice gratitude within the relationships. Acknowledge the positive that can reduce emotional flare-ups and strengthen bonds. Strong relationships are built on emotional stability, and learning to manage emotions within those interactions creates a foundation of trust and empathy. Even outside of the work and relationships, managing our emotions plays a huge role in overall well-being. From managing stress to setting personal goals, emotional mastery can help us to maintain mental clarity and achieve greater life satisfaction. When we feel overwhelmed by stress, it's important to take the time to be mindful, to meditate, spend time in Scripture, to reset our mental state. Use self-compassion when facing setbacks. Again, instead of the negative emotions spiraling, leading to self-doubt, practice positive self-talk. Maintain focus on long-term progress. Emotional mastery, guys, it's not a modern concept. It's a principle that It's been explored in many ancient texts, including the Bible. Scripture offers us profound insights into the relationship between the mind and emotions, emphasizing the importance of self-control, wisdom, faith, and mastering our emotions. So in the Bible, self-control is considered one of the fruits of the Spirit. So in Galatians 5:22-3, it states, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, there is no law." Self-control is integral to living a life of faith and discipline. It's the ability to remain calm and controlled, even when we're faced with emotional turbulence. This aligns perfectly with training our minds to be stronger than our emotions. When we cultivate self-control, we're exercising the mental muscle that allows us to pause, reflect, and then choose the best course of action, rather than being led by the emotional impulses. You can pray or meditate on specific verses related to self-control. Ask for divine strength. Reflect on how Jesus exemplified self-control. The Bible also emphasizes the importance of renewing the mind in order to resist the emotional instability. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Renewing our minds is an ongoing process of shifting focus from worldly concerns, where emotions tend to dominate, to a higher, more spiritual perspective. It calls for daily spiritual and mental conditioning to focus on what is true, noble, and pure, rather than what is emotionally fleeting or temporary. Proverbs were reminded, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." This verse speaks directly to the connection between emotions and actions. If you do not guard your heart, your emotional center, you may be easily swayed by negative influences or strong emotions that can lead you astray. Guarding your heart means being vigilant about what you allow to influence your emotions. It means choosing not to let external circumstances dictate our internal state. It's a direct call to strengthen our minds so that we're not easily pulled into emotional reactions, ones that lead to us making horrible decisions or actions that go against our values. And it's important, guys, to take inventory of what you're consuming on a daily basis. Media, conversations, social settings, social media. Determine whether these influences are nurturing a calm mind or feeding emotional turmoil. I think if you really take the time and look at it closely and take an assessment on yourself and what you're spending your time reading and listening to and watching, I think a very big percentage of us are going to realize that we're feeding ourselves a bunch of crap that's doing nothing but piss us off and getting us to a point where our emotions are taking over our minds instead of vice versa. Making conscious choices about where we spend our time and energy, ensuring that it aligns with our desire for emotional mastery. This is all about a mindset shift, guys. It's a lifestyle. Use prayer and meditation to guard our hearts. Ask for wisdom. Ask for discernment in the face of emotional challenges. James 1:19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. This verse speaks to the importance of emotional restraint, particularly in situations where anger, frustration, or irritation may be quick to arise. Humility plays the role in emotional mastery. Being humble enough to pause, listen, and reflect before we react emotionally is a critical part of the training that we need to take precedence over the emotions. And you've heard me say this before, guys. Develop the habit of listening more than you speak, especially in emotionally charged situations. So now that we've gone over strategies, techniques, different biblical insights, let's take a look at how can we apply these principles in real life situations. You know, start for work. Start your work day with a grounding exercise, mindfulness, prayer. Center yourself. Prepare for the challenges. You know that the challenges are going to arise. Use cognitive reframing when stressful situations arise. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do this, shift your perspective to, hey, I faced this challenge before. I faced similar challenges before, and I will find a way to succeed. Take short breaks throughout the day, guys, and practice controlled breathing and emotional detachment. We've got to give our brains a chance to reset. Before you engage in a difficult conversation in a personal relationship, take a few moments to breathe deeply. Clear your mind. Label your emotions. For example, I don't know, I'm feeling frustrated right now because I don't feel heard. I don't feel like you're listening. You just want to talk over me. Practice self-compassion. This is a big one. If emotions get the better of you, acknowledge your humanity. We're human, guys. We've got to focus on mending the situation rather than dwelling on the emotional mistakes. You know, training our minds to be stronger than our emotions, it's not easy, but it's one of the most rewarding journeys you can embark upon. It requires a combination of mindfulness, discipline, self-awareness, patience. By constantly and consistently applying the strategies, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, cognitive reframing, emotional labeling, or grounding ourselves in biblical wisdom, which is my personal choice, we gradually come to a point where our mind just becomes so resilient and composed, able to handle any emotional challenge that comes your way. Now, this is something that I've been practicing for a while, guys. I'm not there. This is a journey. This is a marathon. It's a lifestyle change. So don't expect you're going to read a few things, you're going to take a few notes, you're going to exercise a couple of things, and tomorrow you're going to be the master. It's not going to happen that way. Remember, emotional mastery is not about suppressing or denying your emotions. It's about acknowledging them, understanding them, yet choosing how we respond to them in a way that aligns with your values, with your goals, and your higher purpose. As you continue on this path, you'll find that your emotions no longer control you, and you'll be better equipped to navigate the ups and the downs of life with clarity and strength. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in this week. I really do hope that you found value in this episode. Please take some of these strategies, put them into practice. You'll be amazed at what will happen in your life. Don't forget to please subscribe, share with others who may benefit. There's so many people that are just looking for ways to train their minds. No one likes to be reactionary. No one likes to be angry. So until next time, guys, this is Tony Cammarata, and remember, stay fast, stay fluid, and stay flexible. Be the absolute best that you can be, because your best is yet to come.